Hello everyone, my name is David Kim and I am the sales manager of AutoPassword. Today we're going to talk about the service that automatically creates and enters a password for you. This presentation has two main components. First, we will talk about traditional username and password login system and why it's important. Then, talk about how our team formulated our thoughts outside the box. So I will talk to you guys about the password. By passwords I mean the method of authentication, using chips to verify yourself, and etc. So this all started when the first computer was built in 1961 at MIT. Whoever made the computer at the time came up with the idea of username and user password. Ever since then, as we came along the era of internet, mobile cloud system, and IoT, we have been using and managing a tremendous amount of user passwords. You may need one for personal use, one for work, and one for any random usage. People are lazy and you might want to live with only 3 passwords, but as you know, different services have different password rules. This is not only hard for the users, but it is also hard for the service providers as well. Governments create laws and standards for identity protection, and we believe that the encrypting database will make us safe. However, the data breach incidents still occur. So every time this data breach occurs, the company always apologizes for the already leaked data. And also, they tell the user to change the password to prevent further damage. And as far as I know, according to the media, Equifax data breach incident alone compromised social security number of 140 million people. Typically, the user password is set during the registration phase. Then you can use it to authenticate yourself and change it periodically depending on the organization's need. If you forget, then you can just reset your password. The real problem occurs not when you reset the password, but when you log in. Logging in itself creates room for someone else to steal and use your password. Also, another problem occurs when you change your password frequently, because it is hard to remember new passwords every time. Because of these reasons, government or other organizations have regulations requiring one-time password, SMS, biometric, and mobile authenticator. There are hundreds of companies that supply these types of devices, and more than 50,000 technologies that is used to authenticate the users. Before you begin checking all the other things, let's take a look at this glossary. Two-factor authentication and two-step authentication are two different things, but often is considered as the same. You might be familiar with the two-factor authentication. This basically means that the system uses 2 factors to prove and authenticate the user's legitimacy. Multi-factor authentication just uses multiple factors. If an organization or company uses this over 2 or 3 steps, then they call it 2-step or 3-step verification. We are not going to talk about the benefits of one-time password, but we'll talk about the cons of one-time password. When you enter your password, the system asks you to enter your one-time password as well. It assumes that even when your password gets stolen, this one-time password will prevent someone else from logging in. However, if the connected service is fake, then the user credentials, including the one-time password, can be stolen. Within 60 seconds, you can let the hacker log into the system. Sadly, this is pretty common and happens all the time. Let's take a look at biometric authentication. People often get confused about the concept of biometric data because they aren't sure if it is identification or authentication information. So when I went to the United States, I said people in Korea uses biometric data as an authentication information. Some guy replied, "How is biometric information and authentication information for you? It is merely an identification information." Well, if you think about it, your iris never changes, and so does your fingerprint, and those are identification information. Since biometric data is a form of identification, it is heavily regulated. However, despite this regulation, once this information is breached and leaked, it can never be used as the key identity information. That's why FIDO came out. The biometric information does not transfer over the network. Instead, this information gets encrypted with the PKI technology and is transferred over. This is accepted and applied to many different organizations in the world. So the PKI technology is combined with the password safely transfers the information over the network. Mobile FIDO authentication basically uses the same logic. However, this method also is a problem. That excellent FIDO technology is within the smartphone, but can this technology be applied to other devices like surveillance camera, ATM, or PCs? FIDO can only be implemented into mobile devices such as smartphone and not the others. Then, you have to manage each device. Instead of using multiple devices, do you have an easier solution? To handle this issue, mobile authentication application came out. There are more than 50,000 mobile authenticator applications. When the user logs in, the service generates a push notification asking the user, "Are you trying to sign in?" Leading vendors such as IBM or DO all works in approve or deny format. It's easy to use, right? Wherever and whatever systems you use or connected to, the solution simply asks you if you have the right authenticator. Well, the problem is, what if the connected service is fake? So I thought I was connected to the right service, so I enter my username. Then the hacker enters the username instantly with or without using an automated hacking tool. The service then generates a push message to the user, and if the user approves this, what will happen? Am I opening a door for myself or the hacker? The answer is you won't be logging into the system, but the other person will. So when the mobile authentication application is not carefully used and managed, then this kind of ridiculous situations can happen. The problem with authentication is that it always asks for the users to prove themselves. The service never gets verified in this process. PKI-based authentication technology is very secure but can often be inconvenient to use, as some solutions require additional devices for authentication. So the question is there a solution that is both easy to use and has stronger security? I created a quadrant and explained the position and the problem to the most used authentication technologies. So the mobile authenticator we talked about is located right in the middle when evaluated using terminal independence and the level of security as the factors. As you may have seen in the spy movies, spies often hack the surveillance cameras. After brief network interruptions at the security center, the video will play back normally and the security guard will think that the place is safe. This goes back to the statement again. Since 1961, machines never have proven or authenticated itself to the users. So he thought differently. If the user needed to prove him or herself in the past, then let's make the service prove itself instead. It works this way. When the user inputs their username, then the service returns the service password. Then the mobile side generates the same password to verify each other. Since the technology seems so easy, we decided to name it AutoPassword. If the passwords match, you can tap the OK button to log in. Well, let's just see it. No matter which website you log into, they will be using legacy passwords. There will be a tab to select an AutoPassword option. Then when the user enters their username, as you can see, the service will show the password and the mobile authenticator will also generate a password. When the user clicks OK button after comparing the application, then they log into the system. It verifies the user in the system and the password changes every time the user logs in. It also supports every type of mobile operating system such as iOS and Android. Also, when you're logging in on the mobile side, it shows the password and the push message will be shown to the user so they can compare these values. You can tap the OK button to log in. The best thing we did with the application is the Windows login. You have to log in every morning, right? But your organization requires you to change this password every 60 to 90 days depending on the security standards. Remembering new passwords every 60 to 90 days is very annoying and painful, but as you can see, AutoPassword can be applied to the Windows login as well. Windows shows the password to the user, and the user just taps the OK button again. This logs the user into the system. Funny thing is that the password changes every time when the user logs in. Not only that, but we are providing our solution to many IoT manufacturers and Windows application companies. We will skip the demos due to the time constraints. We recently integrated our application with the IBM Security Access Manager. As you can see, our application is available for download on the IBM's Exports Exchange website. We also have been mentioned in the Gartner report as an example of well-balanced authentication methods. The National FIDO Standard and Application Forgery and Alteration Prevention solution from NSHC is also applied to our solution. Long story short, the latest security technologies and standards are all included in our solution. It started in Korea and has been recognized in different places including New York, Hong Kong, London, Tokyo, and Seoul. So the logic of how our application works is very simple. People might think that, is this really a technology? At the moment, the service password given to the user is a one-time password. This password gets created using mobile operator's IP address, session ID at the time of login, and the push ID provided by Google and Apple. This one-time password values is binded to the specific session. So even if the hacker has the access to the values, he won't be able to use it. When the hacker tries to log in, this will create another session and the one-time password values. In addition to using session binding, the one-time password values get signed using the PKI technology. So we first provided our solution to KT Corporation and Lush, so we made the companies operate in a more secure environment. We went a little further and thought and asked, wouldn't it be possible for us to lift the burden of password from all the people in the world? We uploaded our solution to Amazon Web Service and distributed the authentication server around the world. We set up parallel servers with the US and Korea in case the load increases. And we applied our solution to Oki, which is the top developers forum in Korea. Feel free to visit and experience. So I want to ask your help. When there is an opportunity to create a better, beautiful world where people can live without password, wouldn't it be good for you to join us in that journey? Let's take a look. AutoPassword is applied to oki.kr, and you can use it freely when you visit. Just type your username, then on all the login page, you will see the AutoPassword trademark option. Will you remember, change, and maintain your password? Or would you use AutoPassword? Just click on the option to use AutoPassword, download the application, then type in the website that you want to add. When you add your website, simply add the verification code as well. This website automatically connects to the AutoPassword application once you register. It is easy for both the service administrator and the user. Once registered, the user no longer has to rely on their passwords anymore. As you can see, let's log out and try logging in again. If you want to use the user password system forever, then just let it be. However, if you want to go with using AutoPassword, then you can apply it to any devices including surveillance camera, router, Windows, and etc. Then turn it into a service device that shows the password to the user. One concern that the service provider might have is that, wouldn't my customers' information go through you? Let me assure you, many banks receive one-time password devices from the manufacturers. They don't give out any information. We also provide service and we do not have any information of which user is connected to which authenticators. Only you will know. So AutoPassword is not different from passwords. It simply prevents the password from being stolen and removes the user's need to remember or change the password. So we asked Oki's chief for some feedback and he replied it feels better when you actually use it. It is easy to use, and he said it was very convenient. Also, from a service perspective, if the security to manage user information is not strong, it is harder to expand the service. And he replied that he is expecting to expand Oki's service into different direction. The enterprise solution is available in on-premise solution which we deliver directly. For public organizations, we deploy cloud-based solutions. We want to emphasize that our solution is different from others because it is easy to use and it solves all the problems with existing authentication methods by making the service prove itself. Would you like to join us in our journey to eliminate the password and lift the burden for regular users? Let's make this world a better place for ourselves and our future generations. Thank you.